It's a mess in this attic. Lot going on, but there ain't no need to panic. Come on up and join, we getting wild, getting manic. Spitting truth for all you fanatics. Every week got something new to say. Ain't no filter, this shit coming straight from the brain. It's coming straight from the brain. Yeah, it's coming straight from the brain.
Frequency, and when I played it back, it was and it was like Alvin and the Chipmunks, and I was just like, oh shit.
Did you attempt to slow it down and see if it worked?
I did, and I called the company with the software, and they're like, we might be able to fix that if you send it to us, but it's going to be a couple weeks. I'm like, I'm just going to call them and ask them if we can do it again. So we did the entire interview again.
Mr. Obama, I know I was a hard get, but could you come back for another?
Yeah, it was rough, man, but yeah. I have no idea what's going on outside of somebody being like, this is the thing, and you push this. If you change the things a little bit, it'll sound different. Okay.
That's a good way to start. Christopher Tallon, everyone.
Yeah, Christopher Tallon.
A man of a pen. It's a pen name.
It's a pen name. It was one that I started when I started writing a book, which, just start in with that?
Let's go. Let's do it. I love it.
So I used to teach after, a failed academic career all the way through high school and first time at college. Then Navy, then came out, became a teacher, did well after, some military discipline.
You got some serious discipline there, like
some
a
serious
big dose
discipline.
of it.
Some what the fuck is wrong with you discipline, like on a regular basis. It's hard to have like that charming aloofness about like how dumb you are when somebody's telling you all the time.
I mean, that doesn't see, just knowing you just from the pre-conversation. I mean, you don't have a military kind of disposition. Like
I don't have a strong military bearing.
I mean, you're not. I don't know. Maybe it's the pot.
I don't know. I've never been a really serious person. I've always been pretty irreverent, which didn't serve me super great in the military. Like I always managed to stay out of trouble, but I don't know. I was, I suppose, fairly highly decorated, but that was just from volunteering to go to Iraq. Like I didn't actually do anything. Yeah, then I got out of the military, went to school, did okay, became a teacher, and ended up having 4 kids. When I started college, we had just had our second. Yeah, so just had our second. Then I'm almost done with college, doing my student teaching. We have another kid, but we planned that one. We're like, okay, cool. I think we're done now. And then I started teaching, and a year and a half after the third one, unexpected number 4 came in. So I was like, we did the math. I was like, I'm not working for essentially like $80 a month with all the childcare and all that.
Yeah, I mean, so you have to go from a kind of a stressful, definitely a high importance job.
Yeah.
To with
waking
limited
up at like
pay.
4 a.m. to make sure I can get all my professional stuff done, then get all the kids taken care of, then get to work in time, and like have it all run as smooth as possible.
And then come
with
back
kids
tired.
who tell me to go fuck myself.
Yeah, and go take care of other people's kids. Yeah, in the meantime. Yeah, I mean, you made the right choice.
Not my kids don't tell me to go fuck myself. I think they'd like to, but other people's kids where I used to work, one of my favorite students actually called me a bald ass bitch one time.
Bald ass. That's the name of the episode. Bald ass bitch.
Yep, bald ass bitch with Christopher Tallon.
You wear
that might
well.
be the name of my new podcast. Yeah, we made the decision based on my wife being a nurse. Like, okay, you're gonna make more money than I am, and we'll be okay with your income, because I mean that's basically what we would have had anyway. I'll stay in with the kids. We'll focus on that.
Right.
But I was an English major and an English teacher, and I always wrote like songs and stories, and I would try to write novels, but then just kind of like the amount of time that goes into one. A professional novelist told me that it takes him 1,000 hours to write a novel, and he's got it to a point where he can hit a clock like a timer, and he keeps it and stops it,
right.
and keeps it going, and he'll know when he's down to 50 hours, like, oh yeah, I feel like I'm almost done, and
it's just like the pacing of it. Yeah,
roughly, and he's a professional who's really
efficient.
Good.
Yeah,
1,000 hours. It probably took me like 3,000 to 5,000 hours, because it took me like almost 3 years to write it all the way through.
Well, so can you talk about the genesis of the idea? Like what? How do you go from having an idea and maybe wanting to do something short form into saying like, okay, I want to develop this further to the point of I'm going to actually sit down and write a novel to the end, and I guess I'm going to let you go for a while.
Yeah,
so I'll give you a bunch here. So, and then also like, do you kind of do you have it mapped out completely before you even started, or are you still making decisions as you're going?
Yeah. So the original idea was a short story that I didn't think was going to be a novel. And it was a super bummer. The main character commits suicide like in the first paragraph, and it's all like this journey of like him like kind of like cleansing himself of all his mental agony before moving on. And I was just getting like so bummed out writing it. But I really liked the characters that were in it. And so I took the 4 main male characters that were in the book that I ended up writing were all from this really sad sack story that I probably wrote like when I was like sad that I wasn't teaching anymore.
Yeah, when you were probably sad. Yeah.
Yeah, because I was, like I said to you before we started, I did have like a little bit of a existential crisis, like, oh, I've got all these kids now. I can't go back to teaching. What am I going to do? I have an English degree. That's basically nothing. Just kidding to all the people that are out there with English degrees. I think it's a great degree.
It's super valuable.
You know, it's
important,
not like going to get people's heads turning. Like you're going to have to say something special in that interview.
Yeah, and also they're gonna think you're gonna be pretentious before you even talk, which is so ridiculous.
Like, this guy, watch, he's gonna roll his eyes if I say ain't. Like, no, I'm not. I don't judge anybody's grammar. It's if you wrote something down and you were like, hey, I'm gonna try to publish this, I might be like, bro, that ain't good.
Or if you're
like,
writing,
I might be like, you might want to fix this and this.
I get texts sometimes where like I'm all for it too. Speak the way you want. I'll like to decode stuff too. It's kind of fun.
Yeah,
but if you're trying to explain to me what's trying to go on, like
if it's a work email and you don't capitalize anything, it's kind of like.
Like an enter, like
I don't care, but somebody would look at that and be like, "Is this person
okay?
Like, did they graduate high school?" Like,
I know people that used to use enter in place of any sort of punctuation, so everything had a very like poetic kind of flow to it, except it was about like car parts.
The other day at the store, you really took my breath away with your knowledge of where things were at Napa.
Craigslist lost encounters.
Yeah.
Okay, so where are we at the story? So you're writing the novel.
Yeah. So then I had this idea for the story, but it was super sad, and I was like, you know what? I don't like this story, but I'm intrigued by the characters. And then I think it was probably just from like watching like stupid YouTube videos, like all-time tens and stuff like that. And I watched a lot of stuff about time travel, and I started watching things about like weird things that happen in nature that people don't really talk about a lot. And one of the things I saw was something called the zombie fungus that affects ants. Have you ever heard of it?
No.
It's something that they actually use in like, I think in like commercial farming. They'll spray this fungus on like ant colonies, and then this fungus basically takes over the brain of these things, makes them climb up a tall point, and then they latch on, bite into this, whatever it is, like a tree or a branch, whatever, the tallest point they can get to. Then they die. A big rod grows out of the back of their head. And then when that explodes, it releases more spores. I was like, oh, that's pretty cool.
Was that lab created, or is it a naturally occurring thing?
It's a naturally occurring thing. And it doesn't affect, you could eat them. It just, like the proteins that do it have no effect on the human body.
Yeah.
But this story takes place near Michigan State University. I'm not throwing shade at Michigan State University, but if something weird was going to happen when it comes to like agriculture, it might happen near Michigan State University. Yeah, I'm just saying.
Yeah, MAC.
It's fiction, people. Go Spartans. I don't care. Anyway, but yeah, I was like, well, what if that did affect people? That would be kind of freaky. And then the time travel things, like I thought, well, what if I could write a time travel story that was, air quotes, really true to like real science.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, well, there would definitely be limitations. What would that look like? And I found this one theory of if you could time travel, you would have to go somewhere where the time machine existed in both places. You couldn't just like Back to the Future it like
to 1955.
You just get it up to 55 and then you're in 1658 or whatever.
I don't know what it's like in 1985, but in 1955 you can't just walk into any corner store and get plutonium.
Yes.
Jeez.
Roads, where are we going? We don't need roads. So
that's you kept the guideline, like that's a constraint on your store, on like your science of your time travel.
So yeah, it has to be that. And then I don't know if I read this somewhere else once I started getting really interested in it, or if I just made it up. So I'm not taking credit for it, or I just don't know where I saw it first.
Yeah.
That if, say, I knew there was a time machine similar to the same one, but it was 25 years in the past, and I wanted to go back to then, I would have to be in the vicinity of that machine for it to work, first of all, at the same time then and then whenever I was using it. There had to be something happening, like, I don't know what the term is, like naturally, air quotes again, where it's okay for this thing to happen. You can't just do it anytime, only when there's a window open.
Right.
This is all starting to get too complex. Let me know.
No, I love it. I'm done.
Okay.
I like it. So that's how you have to make it a novel, is because there's a lot of setup involved with the sci-fi.
Yeah. I was like, the time travel on its own could be a thing. The parasite thing on its own could be a thing. I don't even know how these characters fit into it all yet, because they were adults in the first story. But then I was like, you know what? I'll make them kids, and then I'll have the older versions of them be attacked by this parasite, and the only way they can get out is by this newfound technology, found whatever. And these kids just happen to be in a bad place with something bad happening near this time thing, and one of them gets switched out. And then the really bad stuff, like they were just cornered by bullies about to get their asses kicked, and then all of a sudden they're getting sent to a 25 year in the future where the parasitic thing has killed basically everybody except for a few people who have moved into these large underground communities, and these different communities are like at war with each other over the technology and the
just limited resources.
Just the idea of like, okay, so you're gonna send people, the version of you from 25 years ago to the future, to die so that you can live for at least 25 more years. That's kind of fucked up,
Right.
So there's a lot of that going on. And then I had these 4 characters. I was like, I'm not gonna make them quite so pathetic, but
does it end where the short story started?
No, I just completely scrapped the plot from that and was like, okay, so it's going to have to start back in, like, I just made it 1996 in a fictional version of a town similar to the one that I grew up in.
Which is what?
I grew up in Okemos.
Okemos, okay.
And the town is
so
called
Lansing. Okay.
The town is no what's the legal that you read, that no relation to a real place, purely fictional, whatever. The town in the novel is called Oaksville.
Oh, it's different. Yeah,
Totally different.
Yeah.
And in the novel, it's right off of 96 next to Michigan State University. But in real life, it's right off of 96 right next to Michigan State University.
Yeah, that's a coincidence.
So I don't know. Maybe we should edit that out for legal reasons.
Do we have a title?
Switchers.
Hell yeah.
Because when you time travel, you're actually switching with somebody. So the switchers come in, and it's not even like there's a bad guy they have to fight. It's just kind of like the clock is ticking. Eventually, there's not going to be any more windows to switch. And we just got to be in the right place, and they got to figure out where that is. And nobody's trying to help them along the way either. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, some people think some of them are, but some of them aren't. There's some twists and turns along the way. Some things you thought happened didn't happen. And some people you thought were these people weren't.
We got to do an audio drama of this thing.
Oh, that'd be cool.
You definitely do a book on tape on it.
Yeah, for sure.
The audio book.
Yeah. So, and then there's also 3 female characters in it too, because my oldest daughter, when I was telling her I was writing the book, and I was probably at least a good quarter halfway into it, and she was like, "Are there any girl characters in it?" And I was like, "No, not really." She's like, "Girls aren't going to read it then." And she just turned around and walked away. And I was like, "Good point." So there's 3 strong female characters in there with the, there's like 4 boys. Some of them are stronger than others. Some of them rise to the occasion, some of them don't, and some of them are who you thought they were, some of them surprise you, good ways, bad ways.
Is it a self-contained story, or is like do you have some wiggle room to make a series out of this bad boy?
Well, the book that I'm writing now, after that, takes place in the same town, and there's a little bit of crossover, but not a direct one. So it's not. Yeah. It's all just kind of in that universe, but
yeah,
kind of Stephen King, like, oh, there's a character from one book in this other book, but like there's no like reference to.
I like that.
Oh, they were attacked by Pennywise. Like, no, there's this other thing is happening now. That's just something for the people that were really paying attention.
So were you a sci-fi, like growing up? Were you a sci-fi guy? Sci-fi kid?
I was into anything that like made me uneasy or scary, because my dad was drafted into Vietnam when he was young, and just I think his sense of like what was appropriate and what wasn't was just a little shifted. So when I was like 6 years old, he was like, "Hey, come watch this movie with me. A guy I went to high school with wrote it." And I would go, "Oh, what is it?" And it was The Exorcist. he thought it would be cool for me to see that because he went to the same high school as the guy that wrote it.
Yeah, I mean, that's
Didn't
good trivia,
even,
but
didn't know him. He went there like 10 years before him, but he was just like, "Isn't that cool?"
this is like, good trauma for you.
And yeah, we're Catholic too, and it's like I was just like, "Is this gonna happen to me?" He's like, "I don't think so." And shortly after that, he was like, "Oh, this is the best movie I think that represents just what it felt like to be in Vietnam. Come watch it with me." It was Full Metal Jacket, and I was like 9.
Yeah, I mean,
He took me to see Alien when I was like 11. I was always just kind of like, "Why am I seeing this?" But now
you're
I think
well
I've been,
adjusted
like,
though.
Yeah, well, I write it all out and get it out of my system.
Yeah, true. Yeah, this is what it's scary when when somebody doesn't have an outlet. That's where it gets dangerous.
Yeah, so it's kind of sci-fi, but more than anything, I think it reads and feels more like maybe a thriller with a little bit of horror in it.
Yeah, I like it.
I wrote to a lot of like creepy ambient sounds, just like, put that in YouTube and find something that plays for 3 hours. Click.
Yeah, I hope it's better than. I remember being a kid, and my parents had the tape that you'd play at Halloween that was like creaky stairs and like.
Yeah, witches and creaky doors.
Just
and,
listen to that for 3 hours writing a book.
Yeah. And then maybe the Monster Mash thrown in for good measure.
Oh yeah, of course, yeah. So what do you do with a novel? Like what's now? So now you got to shop it around?
Yeah. They say the best way to get things happening is to get a literary agent, but that's way easier said than done.
Is that
literary agents are usually actually on the hunt for talent, but they're looking in like Harper's Bazaar and Atlantic and like, searching for people who are well established, already have a little bit of a following maybe, and like are proven that they
they can write on a professional
level, put it out
yeah.
and keep doing it,
Yeah.
And I understand that, like, you don't want to take a gamble on somebody and then it turns out like, oh, it took them 15 years to write this and it's still not quite finished, and okay, maybe this isn't the person we want to put money and time into.
What's the downside of like what do they put in? What do they have to invest that would make it a risk for them? What does a literary agent invest? Their time?
Well, a literary agent is basically that's the only way you can get into one of the big 5 publishers, which I don't know what they all are, but like Penguin, HarperCollins, something, Simon Schuster, whatever. They will not just take anybody's manuscripts. So if I mailed it, it would just get thrown right in the trash, and they'll tell you up front, like, we don't take unsolicited stuff. You have to get it through an agent, or it has to be requested by somebody who works here.
I could see that just from a management perspective, right? Like, it's a lot to manage. People are always thinking they can write books, right?
I mean, there's a lot of people. I didn't think there would be that many because I don't run into very many. And the few people that I have were like, yeah, I'm writing a book too. Well, I mean, I started it in college and it's been like 19 years, but yeah, it's fun. And every now and then I go back. I'm like, I'm like trying to like switch professions into one that a lot of people are telling me it's like a fairy tale they're like, you can't just become a novelist. I'm like, I mean, some people do it. They're like, yeah, not very many. I'm like, okay, well,
yeah, but they're not you.
You don't know, you don't try.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I did have a lot of people telling me like, so you're going to keep your teaching license, right? And I was like, no, I don't think so. Like, well, then what are you going to do? I was like, I'm going to try to get this book published. Like, well, right. But I mean, like, what are you going to do?
Yeah. It's like just as if to imply that it's definitely going to fail.
Yeah. If I can make $80 a month, what equals out to $80 a month, I'll make as much as I would have teaching with all my kids in daycare. So it's kind of worth it to me to pursue this. It's not a big lofty, I'm not searching to try to make like 1 million sales. That would be awesome. But like, my expectations are realistic. If I'm going to want to sell these, I'm going to have to like hustle and try to get on podcasts and talk about them. You know what I mean?
Yeah, of course.
So yeah, but yeah, I was all in. So,
well, I mean, that's an adjustment from like how long from you were obviously busy juggling the 4 kids.
Yeah.
So like how deep into you walking away from the teaching career did you really start to put go from, okay, I want to write a book to I'm writing a book and this is my job now? And how did you make that adjustment?
I started like after I told him that I wasn't coming back the next year, which actually pretty funny story there. I told him right near the end of the year, I was like, hey, I'm not going to be back, at least not full time next year, but I can come back and sub. And the principal was like, oh, okay, cool. And I was like, that's a weird reaction. And yeah, like 2 weeks later, they fired the entire staff. Actually, it was really kind of sad. The principal had to go around and tell every member of the staff they were fired. It's a charter school. They clean house a lot. As soon as somebody's like, I want a raise, they're like, fired.
Then the last name on the list from for the principal was
so
his own.
Well, they had And then as soon as he had walked around and told every single person on the staff that they were fired, they fired him. I thought that was super shitty. You know what I mean? If you're going to send this guy to do that, you shouldn't send that guy to do that unless he's still got a job. Like that's part of his job. You can't just give him that responsibility and then pull the rug on him.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's a bad timing situation. Yeah. Like, let the guy get out of this job before he had to do the worst day of his life.
But maybe that says something about the state of charter schools too.
Right. Well, so did you miss out on something by quitting instead of getting fired?
I might have got some severance, but I mean, it wouldn't have been probably anything to be real excited about. Other teachers were like, "Wait, how much do you make?" And not like in a good way, but they're like, oh. "Are you a parapro or a teacher?" I was like, "No, it's full time."
It's crazy, even like, and that's compared to the public school teachers who are also not getting paid well enough.
Some of them, like the ones who stick around for a while and have master's degrees, I think they do pretty well. But like, if you get hired in and just have the 4-year degree, I don't think you start out making much.
See, I have a beef with, this isn't a beef with the education system. It's like the hardest, most complicated thing. So who am I to suggest that? There's
a lot of problems with it, but like, yeah, the solutions, there's so many people screaming from different corners, and I think they all maybe have a point, but
yeah, they all have a point, but like easier, it's still it's hard. It's hard. It's like the product is not like it's not a product. It's
there's a lot of people that are having a hard time solving it. But the biggest problem too is just the resistance from communities. If a school said, "Hey, we're going to try something drastically different from what you've ever seen before," most of the people are going to be like, "Well, how's this going to affect like grade points and like my kid getting into a good school?"
Right.
Or, they'll just be like, "We don't care one way or the other." You might get that too.
You're right.
But
just complaints.
A lot of times administration will push back on things that don't directly like help out boosting test scores, because that's a big thing,
Right. But I feel like just like in a lot of cases, your most passionate teachers are oftentimes the young kids who are just coming out. They're not as like skilled yet necessarily, but like they're still
they get burned out really fast.
Well, they get burned out and they don't make any money. Works. But by the time they make money, they're kind of in a lot of cases they're comfortable. They're not as into it. They're outdated. It's like, how do we? I don't know. It's the same thing happens with like the legal system. The judges that are there oftentimes are really people that really want to make a difference, and a lot of times they're people that just want an easy job where they can like not do much, and
It's weird to think what would have happened though, because I just read in the news the other day that a guy that we both graduated at the same time from Aquinas, and he got a job before I did in South Carolina, and he was like, "Hey man, they're hiring here." I was like, "All right." Well, I went to interview, and ultimately they offered me the job, but my wife was like, "I just don't know if I'm comfortable moving right now. Really small, just I don't know."
All right.
So I passed on the job, and he just got hired to be the next athletic director at East Grand Rapids.
Wow.
I was like, maybe I should have stuck by that guy.
Athletic director, maybe we could sneak onto one of the teams.
Yeah.
And be players.
Yeah. Hey, man, let me just, for like one play, let me like Rudy just jump in there real quick.
Get injured so fast.
Yeah. I would too. I'd like twist an ankle walk into the huddle.
I have a friend who had like they had a 10-year alumni game versus like a 10-year reunion versus a 5-year game.
That sounds like a bad idea. Oh, 10-year versus even still the 10 years, that's a long time out.
Anytime. Like you should be practicing
that's a long time without hitting the weights.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. These guys went into a tackle football game and like a bunch of them got injured. They discontinued the game. But it's harebrained.
And if a guy gets knocked out in high school, you can smelling salt bring him back like that. I had it happen to me one time in a practice. And a guy just went hard head to head when I was doing like just a bench route as a fullback.
Yeah.
Caught it looking at the thing, like trying to turn upfield at the same time, and he just put his face mask right in there. I was out.
Ejected from a game nowadays. Back then, it was like, yeah.
Yeah, and practice were like, nice hit, Andre. But like, yeah, they smelling salt picked me back up. I got right back in the huddle again on, dummy offense, and got lit up a couple more times.
I know.
But if you get knocked out when you're older like that, it's like, okay, somebody needs to call an ambulance. I don't know. He might be dead.
Is it that? Yeah, I don't even know. That's true.
Yeah.
I mean, I hope I
never
find
to the Jackass guys, or one of them, Steve-O, Johnny Knoxville, one of them was talking about like their bones. They noticed when they made a new movie recently, like that their bones break a lot easier, and when they get knocked out, they stay unconscious a lot longer.
Those are two sentences I just hope to never have to say. Like the amount, it means that there's comparison. They're already talking about like compared to another time.
Yeah.
So their bones have been breaking at a frequency in both eras of their life that they can do a comparison.
Yeah, that's nuts. Oh yeah, well we're a little older, so stay unconscious way longer now.
Right. Okay, so without a literary agent, what the hell do you do?
Well, I had a couple guests on my podcast who wrote books, and one of them, actually both of them I stayed in touch with, but one of them I became pretty good friends with. And when I told her, hey, shout out to Jennifer Susie. She wrote a really cool book called Demon in Me. It's my favorite book of all of hers. They're all really good, but check out Demon in Me by
We'll put it in the
Jennifer
show
Susie.
notes.
It's awesome. And I sent her text messages. I was like, hey, you know what? I think I'm just going to self-publish this. You know anybody that might want to edit it? And she's like, well, I actually work for my publisher as an editor. Why don't you send it to them? Because she had read it. She's like, it's a good story. You should at least send it to, a small publisher before you just self-publish it. And so, okay. And then last weekend, I got an email that said, hey, if you haven't already heard from somebody else about publishing it, we'd like to talk to you. So,
hell yeah, that's exciting.
Yeah. So in your face, Mom.
Yeah.
Um,
and all the other people that said you're crazy to go be a
and people
novelist.
who are like, dude, you don't. That's a pipe dream, man. Just write novels when you're retired. Like, okay.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, when you're old and tired and maybe not interested in it anymore, maybe not alive anymore.
Yeah, and then a lot of people too, and like, so well, people stopped asking me about the book because it took me like almost 2 years just to get it to the point where somebody was like, we're genuinely interested. Long process. So a lot of people that knew I had written it like about a year in stopped asking because it had become weird. Like, that book's still not out yet, right?
Like, is he?
Should I? Hey, did you?
No, I think,
What?
I think something's going on with him.
Yeah, yeah. I don't even think he wrote a book. I think he's just trying to validate himself.
Yeah, I think he's doing. I think he's fucking around on like YouTube or something.
I think he just smokes pot and plays video games.
Well, so what is the process? Is it iterative? Like as you're getting rejected, in like not even necessarily rejected, but having
no, it's rejected.
Is it rejection?
Straight up rejection.
But it's also hard just even. There's time to even get it in front of people too, right? I mean, that has to be a slow, patient game too, right?
Yeah, a lot of people are like 6 to 8 weeks, and if you haven't heard anything after that, it's a no. And they're like, and please don't query more than 4 agents at a time. Fuck that.
Yeah.
If you're making me wait 2 months just to like give you special access to it, no.
Yeah, you got
just so you can be the first to say no.
8-week hold on exclusivity on the rejection. Okay.
Yeah.
But when you're doing that, are you going back and like making changes based on notes? Or are you not getting notes? Or what?
They're not giving me a lot of notes, but Jennifer Susie, Demon in Me, check it out. She read my book and was like, hey, I think if you just tweaked this at the beginning and this at the end, it would be a lot stronger. And I was like, oh, sweet. Made some changes. She's like, yeah, dope. And then, ultimately she was the one who was like, this story I think is good enough. Send it to my people. And well, not her people, but her publisher.
Yeah.
And yeah, so that might work out. We'll see.
Well, it's a good step in the right direction either way.
It's a good step in the right direction.
Yeah.
Oh, one thing I wanted to say though, because I just remembered you asking it. When it comes to writing a book, this is something that's very important to me. I do not know when I start it how it's going to end. So I had people that asked me when I was like, yeah, I'm writing a book. Oh, really? What's the big thing? I'm like, well, I'm not really sure yet.
I like that. It's character focused, then the plot will develop.
Yeah. And really a lot of times I would just like make some bullet notes on a notepad and be like, I kind of want this to happen. I kind of want this to happen. And maybe that thing from earlier can come back around here. And then you start writing like based on those notes. But then like, you're like, well, at least me anyway.
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe 15, 20 minutes into something, I can kind of really get into that flow state, whether it's like playing the guitar or, writing, whatever.
Yeah, any sort of creativity.
Where it's just like, you don't even hear the phone ring kind of a thing. You know what I mean?
Right.
And once I get to that point writing, like the notes can go to hell. And it's just kind of like, I see it in my mind and I just kind of like write it as I'm seeing it in my mind.
Yeah. Yeah.
Stephen King says there's a certain point when you're writing that a hole just opens up in the page and you fall in. I think that's a cool way to say it. I got chills just now when I said that.
I know. I like it. I feel it. I feel it too. It's like, what is it about writing that always... I've never even been asked this question. This could be a cheesy question, but like, what is it about writing that's a medium that's really is such a great expression for you?
I knew when I would like not pay attention in class, because by the time I got to high school, I had stopped fucking with teachers. I just became so apathetic. I was just like, whatever. They don't want me to talk. I'll just doodle and they'll leave me alone. So I found just a lot of comfort in like doing little doodles, but more than anything being like, I hate this class. This teacher, their beard looks like it fell off somebody's ass. I don't know. Like just writing notes like that, like kind of just, what do you call that? stream of consciousness stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
And then eventually, like, I might get an idea from something, and I might be like, oh, this might be a little poem, or this might be a little song, or this might be a little story thing. And I just was kind of, oh, thank you, sir. I just was kind of like, oh, I really just enjoy like pen on paper.
Yeah.
And something about that felt really good. I always liked drawing and painting and doing stuff like that, but I was terrible at it. So I think this had that same kind of quality of like, ooh, I'm creating something with my hands.
Yeah.
It's like artistic and straight off my mind, but like it's just different than that kind of like visual art.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then, oh, we were talking about, like you said, have some ideas about like formative things. This is a big formative one for me as a writer.
Yeah. In advance, when I was sharing notes with Chris beforehand, I just mentioned one of the themes of the show at the beginning was going to be this, and it kind of was for some folks, but at the end of the day, it's a theme for all of us, and that is find the things that you loved when you were a kid. If you haven't been doing them and you're not as happy as you used to be, well, do the stuff that you did when you were happier.
Yeah.
That's kind of my like pitch about it.
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah, totally. And I, like one weekend I went to my grandma's house when I was a real little kid, when my parents were just like, get out of here while your sister's having a sleepover so we can, pretend to have another kid. And, yeah.
Practice.
So my grandma was like, hey, listen, I got to do some chores. Here's a typewriter and some paper. Write me a story. And I was like, oh, this is fun. And she would read and be like, oh, that's really cool. Maybe like make some notes, be like, oh, you spelled this wrong. And I would go, oh, okay. And go back and fix it. Yeah. And I just like the feedback and like, oh, it's something I made and she's engaged.
Yeah.
That was the first little hint that I was like, oh, I like this whole process. And then when I got to high school, by this point, I've got right around a 2.00 grade point average. Like there's some serious doubt about whether or not I will graduate.
Right.
And I think it was sophomore, junior year, history class. We were doing the Holocaust, or a unit on the Holocaust. And for the big final project for it, it was like, write an essay about this topic, or this topic, or write a historical fiction incorporating the elements of what we've learned. And I think I was the only kid in the class that was like, I'll do a historical fiction. I wrote a historical fiction.
Sounds fun as hell.
Yeah, it was. But I put it off till the night before it was due, and we were given like 3 weeks to do it. But like a true writer, work right up till the deadline.
You're gonna finish at the very end, regardless of when you started.
My mom was like, "You're not failing high school. You're not going to sleep until this is done." And I was just like, ugh. I sat at a computer at like 8:00 at night, and I worked on it straight until about 4:00 in the morning. Took a nap, went to high school, turned it in.
Went to high school.
Yeah, took a nap, went to high school, turned it in. The next day, the teacher goes, "Hey, before we start class today, I just wanted to read something that somebody turned in yesterday. I'm going to read it to the whole class. I'm not going to say who wrote it. And at the end, if you want to, you can take credit for it." And he wrote this, he read this couple-page story I wrote about a kid. It was, focused from the kid's perspective, who was, abducted, and starts with his door getting kicked in. They get abducted in the middle of the night. They taken somewhere, separated from his mom and sister. The guy's like, you need to lie and tell them you're older, or they're going to kill you. And he's like, oh my God. Lies, and about as it, incorporating these little things that we learned about the...
during the that's such a crazy situation.
Finish the story, and then at the very end, he gets all the way to the point where they're marching the prisoners from the concentration camp out of the concentration camp because the Americans are coming. And so everyone's like, oh, this is the part where they're almost free. And then he dies right before the end of the story. And people in the class were like leaning forward, literally on the edge of their seats. Girls were crying, and guys were like,
yeah, like, I don't cry, I work out.
I got something on eye. And I was blown away. I was like, holy shit, I did that. I mean, like the Holocaust did that, but like my presentation through this historical fiction piece, like, moved people. And before that, I was always just like that kid that fucked off, and the teachers were like, can you just shut up?
Yeah.
And leave everybody else alone so they can learn, like that kid.
Right.
So then at the end, he's like, does the person who wrote this want to take credit for it? If you do, you can raise your hand. And people started looking around like, who wrote that? And I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. I'm gonna take the win on this one. I put my hand up, and everyone looked kind of like, huh?
Really, that kid?
Yeah, they were looking at like that quiet girl in the back that everybody knows writes poetry, or like that kid. Yeah. They're like, oh, the dude that plays in the punk band? Jesus.
What were you playing, drums or bass back in those days?
Drums back then, and it wasn't really that punk. It was just loud.
Yeah. What was the name of the band?
I think we were called Head Rush for a little while, and then one of the one of the guys was like, we should change it to something else. And we changed it to something else. And I thought all of our names back then were really terrible.
Well, I mean,
oh, do you know who our rival was though? Because we had 2 middle schools in my town, which was brand new in 7th grade. Our middle school was 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. So we all went to the same school in 6th grade. Then they built a new high school and made the old high school a middle school, and they split you up based on where you lived.
oh wow.
So each middle school had a band that played at all the dances, and all the like people would have them come and play at the parties.
It was extracurricular band that was formed by friends.
Yeah. No, just a garage band.
Yeah.
And so there was this band from Chippewa Middle School.
Oh.
And we were like, man, fuck those guys. So like we used to like, well, I didn't, but the guys in our band that were like the front guys, because I was just the drummer, nobody talked to me. The guys that
drummers
like,
are the heartbeat of the band.
the guys were like, hey man, come to our show. You know, those guys. They're like, fuck those other guys. And they were like, hey, let's play like the first 2 bars of the song they open with, and then be like, no, fuck those guys, and then like play our song. Well, joke's on us, because those guys turned out to be Lord Huron.
Really?
Yeah.
So they were just had a better band. Had a better band.
Yeah, way better band. And if you don't know who Lord Huron, you can go fuck yourself. And
Let's take a break.
sure,
Yeah, let's take a break. Sorry.
no problem.
We're back. We had to cool the attic down. It's like 95 degrees in Grand Rapids today. It's it's not even fair to say unseasonably warm, because
And we had a dance party.
that's true. We did have a dance party. We danced with some of the fresh product from Fresh Coast Seed Company coming at you from.
Yeah, Fresh Coast Seed Co. up in the Traverse City area of Michigan. Gold Cup winners at the 2019 Cannabis Cup in Detroit. Shout out Fresh Coast Seed Co. on IG.
Okay, that's all that's going to cost you. Fresh Coast Seed Co. is some wholesale pricing on marijuana from the host of the Talk in the Attic.
Yeah, and maybe a T-shirt or 2.
I'll wear a T-shirt. I will rep you. I actually don't want anything. I will rep you if you guys are cool. But what I want from you is to come on the show. Come talk about the business and shit. That'd be fun.
They were talking about coming back on mine again. So yeah, I'll say, hey man, next time you're in town, let's all hang out and go. Maybe we can just like
we can do a round table up here and do a joint one,
and then release it together. Yeah.
Get a hazy up in this attic. Woo! Let it get gassy up there, and I don't mean the gross kind of gas. Get mature, folks. Okay, we're back here. Hopefully you enjoyed the AC break. I know I did. Had a quick change of underwear. Unfortunately for Chris, he didn't have
mine
any.
on. I have yours on.
We just swapped. It was more of a swap situation. Yep. Post dance party, of course. And it turns out it's hard to dance to ambient industrial sounds. This would be a great time to enter. We're going to install a laugh track at some point today, and I think it's going to be Chris has an excellent story coming up. And we're going to make it like you're in the middle of a bad episode of Big Bang Theory, where they're covering bad jokes up with like 3-minute laugh tracks.
Yeah, I think that show's just actually like every 7 seconds, it just.
There's a lot of anticipatory laughing. Like as soon as Sheldon will start to even talk, you hear like the. And then by the time he says it, they haven't even been listening because they've been laughing. It's just a machine. There is no studio audience, right?
I think so, which is kind of a bummer. But it would almost be more of a bummer if it was a studio audience, because that wouldn't even be fun to do one of those shows. It's like, it would be genuinely funny the first time. Then they might do it like 2 or 3 times and be like, hold on, let's take a break. The light wasn't right. Then the warm-up comedian comes back out and like tries to do like 10 minutes of clean comedy.
You ate the mushrooms a little bit too late.
Yeah. Yeah. Then like, okay, everybody try to laugh like you did an hour ago. Like,
Oh, we have a special guest. I can hear by the panting, it's my
hello
wife. No, I'm kidding. The panting would be my dog. Come on over. Nancy gets in such a vegetative state at this point that he becomes almost villainous. Like floating into ethereal nether space. Trying to dominate the world.
His eyelids hang back up and he looks so
like,
intense.
Hi. How you doing? Oh, no. Gratuitous plug penis shot. Cover that thing up. My God. They're going to get an X rating.
Well done, Ninzy.
Pet Nuncy. Butthole shot. First one in the attic history.
First of many.
Yeah, hopefully.
That'll be the new thing. Instead of a picture with you and your guest on
Just a
Instagram,
butthole shot.
get to know a whole new side.
That would be great, though. It would never be identified either.
Yeah.
Like, I would take a mental snapshot of it, but then it would just be placed randomly into a shoebox, shaken up constantly so that I could never backtrack other than with my own memory.
Someday it'll be a coffee table book, a look back at A Talk in the Attic after 25 years.
Like, if you look close enough on Kirk's page, you'll see where the colon cancer started, actually. He was ignoring it all those years. And in his endless pursuit of butthole shots, he was overlooking the most important butthole of all, his own. You know? And I don't mean that in a selfish way. I'm just saying each of our own buttholes is our own. So,
And they're all magical.
and that brings us back to Christopher Tallon. We're talking switchers. We're talking buttholes. We're talking drumming, I think, is when we had to take the AC break.
Yeah. Yeah. Just talking about my transition from like drumming in middle school. And then that kind of became like everybody would leave their guitars at the drummer's house because it was easier.
Yeah.
And I would just play their guitars and learn little things and eventually bought my own guitar. Actually traded somebody a Suicide Machine CD for an acoustic guitar.
I mean, I don't know that band, but even if it was a band I recognized, it's a good deal for a guitar.
Yeah. 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 I mean, it was one of those nylon string ones, and it was not a full size, but it was enough that I could learn some bar chords and like start to play along with a couple Nirvana songs. And that's really all it takes to get going is like learn how to play a bar chord. It's 2 fingers, and then you can listen to all your favorite songs. Even if they have different chords, you can make it sound
kind
the
of
same.
simplify it.
And you can just kind of learn the guitar and learn chord progressions pretty simply that way.
Yeah. Mitch Hedberg has a joke where he says, I taught myself how to play the guitar, but I was a bad teacher because I didn't know how to play. You know?
Yeah.
And I always think that, but I'm teaching myself the piano now, and I'm learning quickly in my own little technique, but like I realize that it's technically very unsound, and I'm not really going to be able to do it the real way unless I really learn.
Yeah.
But
I mean, it all depends on what your end game is. Do you want to like
I like to be
play
a
the piano
professionally high-end concert pianist.
Yeah.
I think there's no
Or
reason.
would you like to be proficient enough to like create cool things in a studio setting? Like, man, have fun with it. You can mess it up 17 times.
Oh, dude.
You know what I mean?
You must not have seen, my episode today that I dropped, I did a impromptu funk. And I don't even know if any of the thing, I don't know if any single element of the song has any funk element or not. You know what I'm saying? But it felt funky.
I don't even know if it was music, but
I actually blacked out for a period of time. Woke up, I had key imprints on my cheek.
I hit the high note and man, something happened to me.
I transcended space and time. I became just a voice of God.
I woke up, the
feel
song was over. It was the next day.
I had panties strewn about the stage. Okay, so where do we go here? I want to know about. You have a big story.
It was all moving into I joined the Navy because I just didn't like the other prospects. I was working construction at a like very like the guy that would pick up trash. You know what I mean? Like nothing else to do. Go pick up. Make sure the electricians didn't leave any food wrappers. Like, oh, good. I was like, well, this kind of sucks. Then I joined the Navy, and maybe 6 months to a year when I was in the Navy, we ended up on an aircraft carrier with the helicopter squadron that I was in. And it was just a small training mission. We were going to be out there for like maybe a little over a week. And our helicopters would be out flying while the training jets that we called clown jets, because they were like red and white and they were small. They didn't look imposing at all. It was just like, it was a little clown jet. Yeah. But that's what those guys fly when they're learning how to land on the flight deck of an aircraft carrier. So we hung out near the spots where we parked our helicopters, which incidentally was like 30 feet from the wingtips where they land and catch the wire. It was awesome. Yeah, it was like being in Top Gun.
Is that scary though?
The first couple times, especially when they come in wobbly and they're not at a good angle and you're like, that guy's going to get waved off. Wave him off, wave him off. Okay, he got waved off. Like that's a little nerve-wracking because, yeah, like I said, you're 30 feet from the wingtips and these things are coming in hot because if they miss, they got to actually accelerate going
get back up
so that if they miss the wire, they can get enough lift to go back up again. So they hit that thing, and as soon as they hit the deck, they go full throttle. And yeah, so they'll hit and miss a lot, and just oh shit.
It's always in the clown car though, or in the clown plane.
The clown guys were bad at it. We did some with trainers with guys that were in the real jets. they'd still miss, or they wouldn't hit the first wire because there's like 3 wires, and sometimes you'd see a lot of them hit the last one. And, you know, when they're really good, they'll hit the first one or at least the second one consistently.
Yeah. But sometimes the conditions are just such that it's got to be difficult as hell.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes the boat's, the boat's always moving, but sometimes it's going side to side or front and back. I can't remember what it's called, listing, and...
that seems like, I don't know. I don't know what kind of person it takes to want to do that, but it's awesome that they do.
It doesn't take a special kind of person. A lot of people are like, well, I was probably going to go to jail, so I did this instead. You know, I mean, like, you're not talking like... only the best of the best can do it. There's a lot of great people, but there's a lot of people who are like, you're not going to last very long too. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
And not just in the military, just like in general.
Right. Of course.
Like this, I don't see any upside for some people. There's a few that just sneak through and they become numbers for recruiters. Sorry if I'm being disrespectful to recruiters, but
yeah, I mean,
sometimes they have an air of not caring about you once you've signed some paperwork.
Like all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Usually.
So anyway, I end up on this ship. I think it's the first time I'm on an aircraft carrier, and I'm just like, whoa, this is really cool. And then I get put on the night shift, I think, while we're there. Or I might have been on the night shift already, and I was just watching some of that other stuff. Anyway, regardless, I'm on the night shift, and I come in to check tools, and all we're responsible for in the shop that I work in is like helping refuel, checking fuel samples to make sure there's like nothing bad in the fuel, and then we're like, the fuel samples look good, and just kind of like clean up, like, hey, the oil's low, put some oil in there. Okay, like that was us.
Yeah,
very low skill, and it was just a couple of guys that were low ranking that did it on nights because it wasn't worth having anybody because they didn't fly at night because they were training.
Right.
So we did essentially nothing. But I get in there and they're like, hey man, I already checked the tools. Don't worry about checking them. I was like, okay. And it was a guy that outranked me. I was just like, okay. And I was, I knew I should have, but I didn't.
Yeah. Right.
So I go over there and sign my name saying that I checked them and they were all there, and so did he, because we're supposed to check them together. He's like, I already did it before you got here. They're good. Well, later that night, in like the middle of our shift, we're sitting there watching TV, and you hear, "Boop, boop, boop. Man overboard, man overboard. This is not a drill." Boop, boop. And that just is on a full loop, loud as hell, waking everybody up, because when you do that, everyone has to go to the place that they work, say, I'm alive, and then they do process of elimination. Who is missing?
Is it a rescue mission, or is it more like just figure out who's missing?
Figure out who's missing, and while they're figuring out who's missing, they say, hey, go get that helicopter from the rescue, because our job was supposed to be, like, if somebody, went Maverick and punched out and landed in the water, woo, we go scoop them up, pick them up, back and bring them back to the boat, hopefully intact,
Right. The equipment's gone, though,
but
at that point.
If somebody goes overboard, and I didn't know this until just then, if somebody goes overboard, they'll send that same helicopter, and they're trained, ready, and like super gung-ho rescue swimmers, and the rescue swimmers in the Navy are the best swimmers in the world. I'm sorry.
Is there like an Ashton Kutcher movie about that?
Those were Coast Guard.
Oh, shit. My bad.
Same thing, though. You know what? Coast Guard, I'll lump them in there, too. Rescue swimmers, men and women who jump out of helicopters into all kinds of terrifying water, grab a person who's probably like flailing and says, hey, I gotcha, can lift them out of the water, can keep themselves afloat. They've got like flippers on too, but like I've seen some of these guys swim, and they can, without flippers, get waist high out of the water just kicking their bare feet.
Dolphin.
Like a dolphin. And I'm just like, holy crap. And like they all played water polo in high school. They've just all got like, they don't get tired in the water, and they can like manhandle you.
It's like
amazing people. Really,
new era of human.
And none of those guys are like, ooh, I don't know. Like they're like,
they're ready to go into the fight. There's a storm
outside. Let's go. Let's do this. I'm ready. I live for this.
Yeah.
So they start to spin up the helicopter. These guys are all getting in there, and the rescue swimmers are like, fuck yeah, because a lot of them were like younger and had never really done like anything like that before.
Right.
And as they're turning the engines on, you hear the and the rotor starts to spin slow, faster. I go, you know what? I didn't check tools. And if I have a tool that's missing and it's on that helicopter, something is going to break and that helicopter is going to crash and everyone's going to die. So then I was like, I just had a tool belt on. We had other tools that I also did not check back in the shop. Any of those could have been missing. But I was like, just for peace of mind, I open this tool pouch. It's Velcro, so you hear like, open it, look, and there's one screwdriver. There should be two, and the other slot's empty. And I just went, oh shit. Close it back up, and then I start thinking, what are the odds that the helicopter would crash? I mean, what is it we do? Most of it's on the bottom, on the outside, or on the inside of the cabin, like probably not up somewhere where it would do damage. But if it was, I gotta tell him that we gotta stop this because I have a tool missing. Because
could get caught in the rotor or something.
Because it could be anywhere up there. Like the hood, the quote-unquote hood of a helicopter is right there where the rotor spins. There's a thing that slides back, and that, for all intents and purposes, is like under the hood.
Right.
At least for most of the hydraulics and all that stuff. So, yeah, anything goes wrong in there, like you get a hydraulic leak, all of a sudden, lose pressure, the things start falling out of the sky. All sorts of bad things could happen.
Yeah.
And so then, you ever watch The Good Place?
No.
Okay, well, they talk about this. It's like a psychology experiment. If you were on a train and you could, hit the lever to switch the tracks because there was 6 workers on one track, but then there was only one worker on the other track, you were going to kill one of them, what would you do?
Okay.
And the idea is, like, most people are like, well, somebody's going to die. What are you going to do? And I started doing that in my head, and I was like, fuck.
Yeah.
Okay, 2 pilots, at least 2, maybe 3 air crewmen, or 1 person in the water. And I go up and I tell my boss, I'm like, hey, I got a tool missing. And he's like, what the fuck? I'm like, I got nothing. I got a tool missing. And then he's like, fuck. And he starts doing the same math in his head. I can see it. And he's like, looks at me one more time with just like I can't believe you
so
put me in a, like this guy's probably like 2 years out from being retired. And he just looks at me with like I can't believe you're going to make me go tell somebody that we have to stop a man overboard right now. Just looking at him like, what do I do with my hands?
I mean, you made the right choice, though. The ethical choice.
Well. Yeah, or say nothing and just hope for the best, Hey, you guys made it. By the way. Yeah, no, I would have never had the trust of any of those guys if I did that.
Right.
And that weighed on me, too. I was like, I know these people. The pilots, I don't know. Pilots and enlisted people don't hang out.
Right.
But like these other guys, like we hung out, we drank together, we went out in the town together. Like those are my friends. I can't do that to them.
Right, 100%.
Sorry for the other guy in the water, like truly like in tears, sorry. And he walks up, tells the guy like, hey, cut it. The air crew comes out, they're like, what the fuck? And they're all like, I don't see them, like I can't hear them, but they're like blah 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 over in the distance, point over at me, and I'm just kind of like sheepishly like and they're just like, that motherfucker. Like I can read, I can tell what's coming out of the mouth even though I can't hear it. They all give me the stink eye and kind of like fuck you as they're walking by. And then they're like, go down to so-and-so's office. Then they give me this talking to, and they're like, hey, that should not have happened, and that's pretty messed up that you let that happen. And I'm like sitting there like, am I gonna get kicked out of the Navy? Am I gonna go to like prison? Like, are they gonna be like, somebody died and this is my fault? Like, did I just involuntary manslaughter somebody?
Right.
And they're like, but it showed a lot of integrity that you didn't put more people in danger. And I was just like, oh. He's like, so we're gonna call the other guy that told you not to sign, not to check the tools, just to sign it. We're gonna call him in real quick. And then they started cussing him up. They're like, you're outrank him, so it's ultimately on you. He should know better too.
Yeah.
But, blah, 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 you're a piece of shit. And then he looked at both of us. He's like, you're lucky that somebody just threw a life jacket overboard.
And he found it?
And yeah, by the time they had shut everything down, like they would have been up in the air and gone already before they were like, hey, everybody's accounted for. So they shut it down, and like on my way down there to get talked to, possibly kicked out of the Navy.
So it wasn't even a man overboard. It was just a life jacket.
Nope.
That had gone
Somebody
over.
threw a life jacket overboard, and they automatically inflate, and a light goes off. So it's at nighttime, and you just see a strobe light in the middle of the ocean. You're like, okay, that's
us. Yeah, right.
Yeah. Somebody, they don't question. They just immediately blow it, and then they start saying who's here and who's not here.
So you saved him at Rocky. You saved him helicopter fuel and everything.
But saved him the fuel and everything, yeah. But I didn't find out until they were chewing him a new asshole too. And he's like, you're lucky that some probably just disgruntled nobody threw a life jacket into the water and nobody was even out there. And I was just, oh my God. And then they're like, you can go. And they kept him back in there. And I think I outranked him after that. But, you know, and then, you know, a couple of people came up to me and they were like, hey, man, don't ever let that happen again. But good looking out. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, I mean, that's like a different kind of.
And that to me, like, told me, like, okay, like, that I am at least in that scenario, I was the kind of person that I wanted to be under a situation that most people wouldn't be put under. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, so, that's when you really know kind of what your integrity is, when it's in a high stress position like that.
Turns out the thing was back in the shop. He just didn't put it back. It didn't even get used on a plane. It was just, he was using it to like change the TV because the knob was broken. Who knows?
There's a couple lessons here, and one of them is don't listen to your boss, even in the military.
If anybody tells you to shirk a responsibility that you know is yours, don't.
Yeah, it's still on you.
It's not worth it.
Even if they tell you that, it's still on you in the end.
Yeah, right. Especially if for some completely unforeseen reason, it could result in somebody else's health and well-being. You know what I mean? And you don't know, because we don't fly at night. No big deal. Oh, yeah, that's right. There's a couple thousand people on this boat. Somebody could fall off in the middle of the night.
Yeah, right. Holy smokes. So do you miss that? Like, do you draw from those military experiences when you're writing?
No, not directly, but like some of just like the kind of like military culture, or just like the culture of being in a war zone. Because I didn't, you know, it's not polite to say, have you ever killed anybody? But you didn't ask me.
Right.
I didn't.
Right.
I was always in a helicopter maintenance situation. Those guys may or may not have. So, you know, I was 1 degree of separation from that.
Right.
And that, you know, is kind of a weird place to be too, where you're like, geez, did I help somebody kill somebody? But
right.
But I think I'm in a healthy place with like
your role,
kind of feeling of like guilt or responsibility, and that, like, you know, I don't know.
Yeah,
it just kind of brought me out of it, thinking like war is kind of ridiculous.
Right. A lot of people that are fighting for it, you know, out there feel the same way, but they're still doing their job. It's like.
Yeah, and you can't blame the military too, because like I had people that were hostile towards me because I was in the military, and they're like, well, you know, everything over there is bullshit. And I'm like, well, I know, but instead of being mad at me about it, you could maybe write your congressman.
Yeah, right. I mean, it's better to have you than a sadistic person in there doing that job.
Somebody who's just doing one enlistment so they can get some free college. Like, why are you yelling at me about it?
Right.
Why are you giving me any static?
Yeah, a lot of the same people like are really proud of their grandfathers for their World War II service. So
yeah.
You know, it's not our job to legislate the military action. It's like, I'm generally anti-war,
yes,
but if you're a soldier and you're not a sadistic person, I'm all for you. You know, like,
and it's good that there are people that want to do that, especially since there's probably quite a few entities that aren't thrilled with the United States.
You could say that.
You know what I mean? If all of a sudden there was no defense, if they did like a defund the military, you know, and we're like, let's just leave it at the Coast Guard, we'll be fine. You know, you might be glad you had Marines at some point.
Yeah, right, of course. By now, for sure.
Yeah. No offense to the Coast Guard. They know that's not their
well, they're
deal.
not equipped. Well, they're not equipped for that at this point. Yeah.
I'm not trying to rip on the Coast Guard. If anybody out there is like, dude, my cousin's in the Coast Guard, I have full respect for the Coast Guard, just as if they were any other branch. But yeah, it's a fun one for the Navy because we're both in boats, you know. So that's the most like
the
direct one to like our boat's bigger than your boat.
Yeah. But the Marines are somewhere. But the Marines are involved with the water. They're part of the Navy, right?
Well, yeah, they are. It says on their seal, Department of the Navy.
I learned at the 22-mile ruck march that we did last week, a couple weeks ago.
Oh, intense!
Oh my Lord. It was great. Great cause. It was for the 22 veterans, a day that commit suicide. It's pretty crazy stat.
Oh, wow.
But yeah,
that's intense.
But that said, it was definitely a good event. I chafed a lot. That's all I'm going to say. I had scabs between my thighs. And I know it's
good to have Gold Bond and Vaseline.
Dude, I had it all, but not as much as the fat that I had in my thighs. Rubbing
maybe
together
some
more
skin.
Maybe some just like exercise before the 22-mile walk.
Yeah.
You know, maybe walk like 2 miles beforehand at some point.
Yeah, I don't have a thigh gap either, so I've experienced the same problems. One thing I can say, not necessarily for that, is like, you know, get like a good pair of bike shorts. That helps maybe.
Yeah.
Well, but if you ever get really bad blisters on your toes, because at one point I was training for a full marathon. I've only run a half marathon. It's the farthest I've ever run in a race. And then I ended up getting hurt training for a full and not doing it. But I would get really bad blisters on my toes. You can wrap your toes very loosely. You don't want to put anything. But you can wrap your toes in duct tape. Your toes feel amazing. So if you ever go on a long run, anybody out there who goes on a long run or a long hike, before you start, just a nice and easy around. Don't do that. I just want to make sure it's a little, because your feet are going to expand as blood goes into them too. So leave it a little.
It's moist.
Leave it just kind of barely there. Just give it a little.
But enough that the adhesive still kind of like mates with your skin though.
Yeah. You just don't want to get a lot of tension on there to restrict the.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you can get that just barely on there, science right, and then kind of pat it on, you'll never get a blister on your toes.
It's also effective against conception.
Yeah,
it's a good contraceptive.
Kind of rig up your own contraceptive.
Yeah.
It doesn't make for the best dental dam.
No. Well, I mean, is that still a product that's available?
I don't know. That was something we used to always joke about in high school. Like, who cares about dental dam? Like, but
someone just looking to to do the blowjobs, I guess.
But does it even? I don't.
What is it?
It's like a sheet of latex.
Yeah.
If you're gonna put your tongue on something, you can put the latex over it and just lick the latex instead.
Yeah, it really changes the intimacy situation.
It's like a condom for your mouth, essentially.
It's like a whoopee cushion. Instead of licking the beautiful person that you took to into your intimate setting in your bedroom, you're licking a piece of rubber.
However, if you just want to be like, if you don't know the person well and you just want to really have all your bases covered, I don't know. I've never actually seen the product in the wild though, in use.
I have in the wild. I mean, I've got like 6 or 7 left from my multi-pack, but I actually got them as like an industrial sealant.
There's several multi-fruit flavored ones. I don't like the tangy ones as much, but the strawberry ones, sometimes I'll just pop one when I go for a walk.
Actually, the hollandaise one is the one I like the most. Yeah.
When it's real hot outside.
Oh yeah, it's good. It's nice. It's a little paprika on there.
Nice mouthful of hollandaise.
Good Lord. Okay, we're gonna do some rapid fire.
Paul was like, I'm gonna tell you a story about a person in the country. Like, I'm just sitting here watching the wheels go round and round. I really love to watch them roll.
So do you find like musical? You still are a musician. You still play.
Yeah, I still play the guitar a lot. The drums are just dusty. I don't even have cymbals anymore.
I mean, the drums are, especially with kids in the house, it's like hard. It's a noisy instrument.
They'll take a couple of them out every now and then and just bang on them. They love that. I've got a 19-year-old girl. She's about to be 13-year-old girl. About to be 8-year-old boy, and just turned 6-year-old boy.
Wow, so you're kind of in a fun. They're the transitional ages for a lot of them.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess that could be always true. But...
I've got one who's just finishing up first year of college, and another one who's just finished kindergarten. It's a good size gap, and the girls are the older two, and the boys are the ones who are right back to back. I don't even know. Is it offensive to say Irish twins?
I mean, it won't. Not to me. I'm Scottish. I mean, I think your intent is not to make fun of the Irish. I think it's just a term.
The person who told me that I almost had Irish twins was an Irish guy. So if I'm not allowed to say that, then I deeply apologize. I was not trying to be offensive.
Oh, he's pulling the old version, the Irish version of, well, I have a black friend.
For anybody who doesn't know what that possibly racist, I apologize for this term. It's if you have 2 children who were born within 12 months of each other. Okay.
Just a tremendous amount of trauma to the poor woman birthing these babies.
Okay, I think it's ready. Take it easy.
Oh no, I'm
Pregnant again.
oh no, I'm
Pregnant again.
oh no, I'm
Pregnant again.
Like, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, just an overzealous husband is really what it is.
There's a level of time that you just have to respect that person's need to rehabilitate a little bit.
6 years old. No, my friend and I found my mom's birthing book that was like stashed away, like in like a, in like.
Did you see pictures of water births and things?
Saw pictures of like just like hairy vaginas giving birth to babies, and that really changed my relationship to that organ, I guess.
Yeah.
At that point,
I think I can
for the better.
I think I can wait until I'm a little bit more mature, maybe, to have sex.
Yeah, I mean more and never maybe.
Just before sexuality really became a thing. You know what I mean?
Like, you mean in your life?
In my life. When I was a kid.
Because it's been a thing for a while.
Sexuality's been around. Yeah, I know it didn't just...
It's kind of an 80s thing. There's still people have been having sex for generations.
Yeah, before my own sexual awareness, I guess. I don't know. I don't know.
Your sexual, come on, we gotta hear what happened.
Remember what I was saying?
Your sexual awakening.
Right before sexuality kicked in and became a thing, like when you're still getting like sex ed and you're like, well, then how does a girl masturbate? None of this makes any sense.
Where does the pee come from?
Yeah. All the pictures, like the diagrams, and the like, this is what a vagina looks like at this. Like, I remember thinking, like, these are disgusting. How could anybody want to put anything in there?
Seems like a lot of maintenance.
I don't even think I ever want to see one again.
I know. And that's when your homoerotic journey began.
Yeah. And you start looking at it again and say, maybe there's something
A
to
couple
this.
years later, you start to get a pube sack.
Maybe
You know, that
there's
thing's kind
something
of
to
cute
this.
looking,
I don't
really.
know. Yeah. I wonder how many people they like traumatized away from heterosexuality with their gross pictures.
Well, you know how we're kind of overpopulating the planet and killing the planet? You know that's a thing?
Yeah. I've been told.
I hate to bring it up so casually, but it's a thing. And so I'm just wondering if like homosexuality is like our species' way of like a quick fix to stopping the overpopulation. Like, let's stop having kids so much.
If there is something like you could say scientifically, like, well, you know, it's nature's. That's a beautiful way to do it. People can still love each other just as much as anything.
Dance well, have fun. They seem to have fun a lot of times.
Yeah.
Highly conservative Zealand type person, which is a lot of great people there.
They have a good ice cream place there.
Captain Sunday.
Captain Sunday. And if you go there, so they got one of George W. Bush. It's real big with like a newspaper clipping, and like they show you what his order was and when he came to visit, and it's like this really like prominently displayed thing. But if you go around to the back, almost to the back side, like all the way to like the side back corner, not completely on the back side, there's a much smaller plaque that was like, Mitt Romney was here. I was trying to knock over a camera with my foot. Sorry. Get to the other end, and it's for a guitar. It's two male end plugs, and I just go, oh, shit.
So welcome to Kirk and Chris and Elton. If you look, Elton, this is by Kendra, local painter, Naom Art, NAOM.art. More on her as we go. We have one last segment here with Chris. He just mentioned it before we had a bunch of stuff die on us or overheat. Both of which I'm at risk of right now, death and overheating. We're down to our last pair of undies. We swapped back, which is good, logistically anyway.
It's like when you sit in somebody else's seat. Like, your seat was warm too, but it's a different kind of warm.
Yeah, it's like, and anytime you bring warmth into a situation, it brings to mind moisture, and then those things are just a recipe for communicable disease. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. So I'm glad we didn't switch seats. But let's talk about Creative Ops. What is Creative Ops?
So it's the podcast that I've been hosting for approximately 26 episodes, I think. I was on a podcast called Threads Podcast Life Unfiltered with Jason Thierry is one of the co-hosts, and he, after I was on that show, he was like, hey man, you should start your own. You got, you know, whatever podcasting thing is.
You got what it takes.
He was like,
I just think you'd be good at it.
and I was like, and he kind of, you know, was like,
I'll help you.
he helped me do all the things, get everything uploaded, help me figure out how to get cover art and do all that stuff, which he now does as a business for Hey Guys Media Group, heyguysmediagroup.com. And got me rolling and kept pushing me like, hey man, make sure you're doing regular content.
What day of the week are you going to have it come out? Make sure it comes out that time. Like,
Got me kind of like
Give
really
me
going.
discipline, kind of, yeah.
Yeah, for probably the first half dozen episodes, he was like,
hey man, where's your content? Like, always like, you're supposed to drop today. What's going on? I'm like,
oh yeah, I didn't have a guest. He's like,
do you even want to do this?
I'm like, okay, all right.
He had to give you the come to Jesus moment that you have like with your high school coach or something. Like,
Yeah, he's like,
I can be doing other things too, man. If you don't want to do this, don't do it.
yeah, all right. I started getting serious about it.
What is the premise of it?
But the whole thing is, yeah, if kind of like I jumped all into writing and felt like it just opened up a different world to me, you know. I want to give people just a little bit of an insight into somebody who's like all in on a creative thing, even if it's like opening a small business.
Yeah.
It's not like some chain. You really like got your own idea, but like how many people said, oh yeah, I think I could open a business, but yeah, and they don't do it.
Yeah.
Like just whatever your thing is that you're like on the verge of doing, but something's holding you back. Maybe you'll listen to an episode of my podcast and they do the same thing, or that person's just story kind of speaks to you. And then you'll go, yeah, you know what? I used to be pretty good at painting. I should do that again, you know, or
Yeah.
whether it's just to get into it as a hobby or like, you know what? this person makes that much money doing that shit. I was pretty good. Maybe I should do that again, like.
Yeah, dude. It's like simpatico. That's a lot of the same reasons. That's like kind of the theme of the show too, I feel like. To some extent.
Yeah.
So, it's like we spend a lot of time we spend a lot of time, like in the education system it's a little different, but in business we spend a lot of time putting our energy into someone else's thing. Someone just told me in a recent episode, if you don't put time into your own dream, then someone will hire you to put time into theirs.
Yeah, that was a great sentiment.
Yeah, and so like obviously you need to be able to pay the bills and all of that, but there's a way to also separate how you pay the bills and what your passion is too. That's something that's an option as well.
And it really does help to have somebody who's like really encouraging. I've got a great wife who is like, if I didn't write for a few days, she'd be like,
"Hey, you haven't written in a few days. What's the deal?"
And like, it was like my accountability partner. She's like,
"You want to do this? Do it. Be serious."
So it's good to have somebody who's like,
"Yeah, I believe in you," and also is like, get off your ass, go do it today.
Right? Yeah, isn't gonna like coddle you either.
Yeah. She'll get the biggest thanks if and when this book gets published in the front.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I'm excited about that. Switchers.
Yeah, me too, man. If it does come out, then I'll come back and we can.
We should do like
talk about it and do a.
What we should do?
Or something.
What we should do for real? This is a formal, like an absolute invitation. It's not a should. We're gonna fucking do this. This is coercive at this point. Okay, I got you in like the strange.
It's happening. Deal with
lit cave lighting. And I'm gonna tell you what you're gonna do. We should take an excerpt, whatever you think is like a cool excerpt, and like act an audio drama out up here, and like release that as a teaser.
That would be cool.
That'd be fun.
I would be down for
Bring
that.
some friends. We find some actors. It doesn't have to be real actors. Just people.
Yeah, well,
I
even know some people that acted in high school that are like, and because people, when you start a podcast in the vein of like kind of what we do, I've found anyway that a lot of people are like, oh, you know what? I always liked writing poetry. Like they'll just start opening up to you about like, oh, I've always wanted to express myself this way.
That's exactly what you're trying to inspire, though.
Yeah.
Right? That's what you just said you wanted to inspire, and it's happening. So.
Well, and the big thing was like when I read some inspirational thing that was like, tell people that you're a writer, or whatever your thing was. But that was my like, yeah, I'm going to do that. Once I started telling people, oh, I'm a writer, whether I made money doing it at the time or not.
Right.
Yeah, like that's what I am. That's what I do. People would be like, oh, you know what? I used to write. Oh, you know what? I used to be in a band and I stopped doing it and I always wished I didn't. That's great that you're still doing it. I'm like, oh, cool. Then you'll get some people too that are like, bro, that's an unachievable, unrealistic thing. Like, you don't strike me as the type of person who's motivated and ambitious. Like, I am when it's the
right thing.
Like, I've seen a therapist for anxiety, and one of the things he said about me was that I'm a perfectionist, but I also will like just withdraw from things. So like if I don't like the way something's going, or if it's something that's just not interesting to me, or if it's something that I feel like I can't do really well, I'll just be like, nope, I'm done. But like the military forces you to trudge through stuff. Yeah. And I think that was like the start of it. And then I was like, well, I've got free college. I'm going to go learn about English. And like the first day I was like, oh, there's a rule, the A and N. Oh, that makes sense. Like I wasn't like always like this well-versed guy that can write a book. Yeah. I learned a lot of the technical stuff and then like wrote a lot and eventually like started getting really positive feedback from like students and teachers, and then won a shitty little award in college against like,
That's cool. What is it? What's
not very talented small pool too. It was a really small liberal arts school, a very small English department on top of that. So it was like, I was in class with all of the people that submitted stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I knew what I was going into. I was like, oh,
so
I might
the best in your class.
So, not the best poet, and that was the one that won money. $100.
Poetry's always where the big money's been.
But yeah, no, I won the school magazine's staff choice for fiction, which was just an honorary. I had a couple things that got in there. Woo woo. Some people didn't get anything. I got multiples.
Bam.
But the one that they liked the most was me. Like it started out like an open letter to the editors of the literary magazine, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
Saying that I thought that their guidelines for submission were bullshit. Like, why does it have to be Times New Roman? And then launched into like how Times New Roman is like a stuffy asshole guy who owns a yacht and talks about his bidet, like
like started
like getting into like, the font that I like to write in is like the guy who's richer than everybody else in the room isn't wearing socks and is like, hey, can I get a Miller Lite?
Right.
And so like just totally shit on the entire institution and everything that they were doing. And the students loved it. And then the staff member who was in charge came up to me after I read it out loud and and I thought they were going to punch me in the face. And they're like,
Hey, I just want to tell you that's one of the best things I've heard in years.
I was like, oh, thanks.
People like self-parody. It's like I feel like
Yeah.
Hollywood will sometimes give a lot of awards to movies that are like self-parodying.
Yeah.
Hollywood kind of.
Yeah. So yeah, it worked in my favor that time to totally trash somebody because I was able to do it in a way that was funny. I talked about bidets and people leaving pubes on the toilet and like stuff like that.
Yeah, classic just victimless humor, really.
Victimless humor that's not necessarily highbrow, but it's not like R-rated either.
Yeah, no, it's good. It almost falls in the dad joke vibe.
Yeah. So
Almost.
I like to try to punctuate a good paragraph sometimes with like a snarky or a sardonic comment that's kind of like, not like going for a laugh, but just kind of like a, just
kind of like a tongue in cheek. Like I got the last word, kind of.
yeah. Yeah. So I try to be like clever with paragraph punctuation sometimes.
What's your use of the exclamation point?
Pretty limited, usually only with dialogue.
Yeah.
Or an internal dialogue, which is still dialogue. It's just not in quotation marks.
Yeah, I can't imagine an omniscient observer ever using an exclamation point.
Yeah. Well,
I see-
Switchers
you see
is
it
told
sometimes.
from first person. So that one,
How, is it like
There's-
it's written?
the guy's like, and then this happened, and then I did this, and then we started running, and then they started shooting at us.
Does that imply that person survived to be able to retell it?
I don't know.
I always wonder about that.
You got to read it.
Well, so sometimes I get so meta on the situation. I'll be like,
Well, I'll tell you, the first line is, when you know you're about to die, and your first thought is, no, that's not the right way to start this. So, I don't know. Maybe he lives. Maybe
say
he
it
doesn't.
again. I want to hear it again.
When you know you're about to die, and your last thought is, then a dash, next line, no, that's not the right way to start this.
Oh, so it's very who knows.
So it's very who
Good
knows.
guy.
It's all told in past tense. So you're like, is this like his dying thought? Or maybe it is. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's both. Who knows?
Will there be a conclusion? Will we know?
There will be closure to this story, and I think people could definitely be like, is there a sequel? So there's closure and there's not closure, but in that not having closure, it's kind of almost like a horror motif. I don't know what you want to call it.
I like it. I want to read
the way
some
that
excerpts.
it ends is supposed to make you feel a little uneasy.
Yeah, that's how life is. It kind of is uneasy at times.
It is uneasy. And I even had lunch one time with a really great Christian author. His name is Stephen James, and he wrote a series of books, like FBI thriller type books called the Patrick Bowers Files. Amazing books. And he was saying like people get upset with him in the Christian market because he writes things that are like violent and like very reflective of like the actual violence that you would see at a terrible like FBI crime scene.
Yeah.
Where people are like trying to hunt down serial killers. Like
They want it to
it's
be, like,
not pleasant.
whitewashed or-
They're
yeah.
like, why do you have to be so graphic?
Have you read the Bible?
And he was saying like, I don't want to say that word for word, but more or less his response to that was like,
If you take up the mantle to be a Christian, like the Bible says, you're going to be persecuted for it. Life is not going to be comfortable. Like it's not like it's the end game salvation, but it's not like the end of all your problems. Period. Life still goes on.
yeah, there's
and
still,
sometimes people will draw heat on you just for your beliefs. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
are you one of those evangelists like going to tell me my mom's going to hell? Like, get all up in your face, kind of like, no,
Yeah.
dude, I'm just like this is what I believe. Jeez, leave me alone.
yeah, like what? Yeah, don't take out your own whatever the hell is going on with your
yeah. So
But I actually, like I told you beforehand, I haven't listened to the show yet. I'm going to listen to it by the time this drops on Friday.
I've listened to so many of yours.
It's not.
man.
It's no disrespect. It's been
Bro.
a fucked up month, man. I promise you. But by the time I come on, I'll have listened. I'll put some talk. We'll talk.
I'm gonna unsubscribe until you've listened to some of my.
Well, I did give you a written review though.
Saw that.
Yeah, because those are
A
hard to find.
dishonest written review.
Well, I don't fucking. I think I just gave you ups, give big ups to the host.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's not dishonest.
No. You didn't say I've listened to the show.
I
and-"
didn't. I did. I said I like this host. He gets really digged in.
Yeah,
That's what he told me.
yeah. I just get that sense from his IG.
No, but 100%. It's no. I really do. I will definitely go and listen. Definitely by the time this comes out Friday, and please look at the show notes. I'll have given by the time this comes out, I'll have given like the intro, you know.
Yeah, I do the same thing.
And I'll have a lot of people there because we didn't really get to it till the end. But I'm excited to do some projects. I'm excited to get on some creative ops with you.
Yeah,
that's not saying you have to bring me on your show, but
no. I was gonna put the invite out after we wrapped. So.
Yeah, we should definitely do that. But also some collaborative. Just if you have some weird idea that doesn't necessarily exactly fit into your show.
Maybe we could start like just a monthly thing that we do together, and we could release it together like jointly.
Yeah,
and we could call it like the Trophy Husbands or something like that.
I mean, that's clearly what we are.
Yeah.
Two guys that...
If I don't tell people I'm a writer and they're like, what do you do? I sometimes like if I just want to like be a pain in the ass, like just let you know that that's the way I'm going to be talking to you right now. Yeah. I'm like, I'm a trophy husband. Like, what?
Yeah, I do that too. I tell them that I'm eye candy for Jessica's like law office. Yeah. And then people sometimes look at you like they want a piece of that eye candy. And you're like, whoa, not up for grabs. Yeah. Hi, I'm Kirk.
And I'm Chris.
And together, we're
the Trophy Husbands.
Trophy Husbands.
I don't know what to do with my hands.
I have a 38-inch waist, and every inch of that is used for the right stuff, baby.
Maybe I have 2 sections in my closet. The clothes that I used to be able to fit into, and the clothes that I fit into now. It doesn't matter when they're all on the floor, and that's the key to being a trophy husband.
Sure, I may not have a reliable income. I might snore louder than I used to. I might be more confident than maybe I ought to be. All part of the package when you have a trophy husband.
Me and Kirk just keep it real. It's not our fault that we're the most charismatic men that these women have ever met, and they said, hey, listen, we do good. Let us take care of you because you're like creative flowers and we want to watch you blossom.
You think you're going to be able to start making a little more money?
The best part of being a trophy husband is nobody expects anything from you.
Trophy husband.
Not even your wife, really. You just get to sit here, look like this, and let the good times roll.
That's right. Christopher Tallon and Kirk Ross are trophy husbands. Coming soon on a podcast platform near you. Christopher, this is a pleasure. Was it too ADD? Was it too all over the place?
Oh, no, that's my speed.
Yeah, I think it was awesome. I hope you get something beneficial out of it. I know I did. I'm excited for the book. I want to read it.
Satisfying.
We don't even know if the main character in this damn Switchers dies or not.
Yeah.
I'm saying it right here without having any knowledge, and I don't want this to be controversial, and hopefully we don't have to cut this out, but when HarperCollins publishes this bad boy. But what I'm saying is if you're telling a story, narrating it in the past tense, saying like, then I went here, then I did this, that means that you're alive to tell the story, unless you're going to pull some meta-narrative thing where your grandkid found a diary and he's reading it in Morgan Freeman's voice or something, or, you know, those. So does that, if I drilling down to
when
the
you
truth.
know you're dying, but your last thought is.
We should get that guy to do the audiobook. I'm sure he's got nothing else going on.
Mike Logan?
No, oh yeah, Mike Logan would be great, dude. The ice cold comedian.
He did
that guy does a fantastic.
He did it on the show.
As I lay here breathing my last breath, I think to myself, I wonder if the birds will sing in the morning. It's like, oh my God, they just killed Morgan Freeman. Hashtag justice for Morgan.
Like it's one thing to get like the tone of the voice, but to actually like sound just like to do each thing.
Oh, I know. Yeah, and actually, like Mike transforms into a black man when he does it. You know? No, that's a joke. He's black. He's black. Mike, we're doing a ice cold comedian. It's gonna be the host of a comedy roundtable here.
Oh yeah, I remember you were talking about that with them on the show, man. I'm so looking forward to that. And you know, that was the funniest thing when I was like, I really got to reach out to this Kirk Ross guy, was because you had just had Kid Kane and I had Kid Kane, and then like Vince, and I was like, wait, okay, this is weird. We've had 2 of the same people, and then I was like, I want to get a comedian, and then first person that I was like, I'm going to ask this guy. It was Mike Logan. And then I saw that you had him on one of your shows too. I was like, God damn it. This is weird. This is like Twilight Zone-y.
Good taste.
Like tomorrow if I go out and buy a pair of shoes, you're going to be like, hey man, check out my new shoes. I'll be like, what is happening? Were we separated at birth? I'm
actually jamming my size 13 feet into your size shoe just so I can like do the single white female thing. Yeah. See, this is what you get to. This is the kind of banter you'll see twice a month. Trophy Husbands on AMC and Bravo after dark. Thanks, guys. Thanks, Chris. Let's give a knuckle pound for the, or as my Grammy say, well, they're always fisting each other.
They're always fisting.
She was talking about.
Oh, bro, that's rough. And you know what's funny for the people that can't see this.
There's no fisting. It's just
yeah,
pounding.
for the people that can't see this, break it down. My mom always did this until like we got to high school and like just past high school and openly told her like why we always thought it was funny. She never knew. Why is that funny? She would sit down and go like this. So how would you describe this style of resting your hand in your face?
It's resting vag face, they call it. Yeah, it's a condition.
If you're making the peace sign with the tongue out from Kingpin. Yeah, if you're doing that, that's how my mom rests her hand on her face
and then,
when she's got her arm propped up on a desk. And finally one day when my sister was like 19, she was like, Mom, do you know why we laugh at that? And she's like, why? She's like, because that's how my mom's not even here and I can't re-say it. But my sister explained graphically what that was to my mom in front of me. And I was just like, oh!
It was a formative moment.
And that was a formative moment too. Like, oh, damn, my sister will say anything to my mom.
I one time did that in like 8th grade. I did that to like around my buddy friends. And I was like going, and my friend Chris's dad, Greg, he goes, hey, Kirk. And I was like, oh, Mr. Wagner saw me. Oh my God. And he went, it's like this. And he started doing it really aggressively. And we were like, ah. And that was at the point in life where you didn't really realize that your friend's parents were like, interested in sex as well.
That they could be dirty fiends when the time was right.
I got to go. I'm getting text from my wife. That means it's go time.
Ooh.
You got your kids. This is awesome. This is coming out this Friday. Thanks for coming on. Yes. Trophy Husbands, Kirk Ross on Creative Ops, coming soon. Peace out, everybody.
Bye.
Gotta get really aggressive with the language at the end. Friends do again.
Thank you.